in local material is cheaper as well, and you can achieve a very beautiful looking design for much lesser than the price you pay for laterite stone. I would doubt you will feel hot even in this temperature. The Indian architecture style where we instinctively knew that the more closer, clumped up, packed housing we will have, there will be less thermal heat gain and we will stay cool, we will survive. And at the night time, you go to your terrace and go to sleep. The northern hemisphere much closer to poles, and it's pretty cold there. So it makes sense that you have a glass as a main building material, because what happens, glass allows a lot of heat to come in. So if it's really cold day and at 12 in the noon sun is up, you want that sun to really come in, as deep inside as possible, because you want to feel that warmth, you want to enjoy that golden light, that you get during the afternoon period. But in India, it's not the case.
Hello everyone. Welcome again on our podcast Think It. And the guest of the day is Bhavin Kothari. He is an architect, and अगर आप लोगों ने बैंगलोर एयरपोर्ट का टर्मिनल 2 देखा हो, so he was one of the architects in that entire backend team. So there are a lot of inputs which we really want to gain from him. Let's get straight to Bhavin.
Yeah.
Hi Bhavin, welcome to our show. Thank you. How are you feeling today?
Superb. I've never done this before, so it's a new experience. And
Okay, so let's start from Bangalore airport experience itself.
okay.
What was your role, and what are you doing currently?
Okay. So I moved to Bangalore because I got Bangalore Airport project. And before doing this project, I've done a couple of projects in USA when I was working in Chicago. So that was Dallas, Fort Worth, and Pearson, Toronto. And after I got into Bangalore project, my first task was to take care of the entire skin of the building. So I was essentially in charge of what we call facade. And if you look at the Bangalore terminal to airport, it is a composition where in departure area you have a lot of bricks, and in arrival you have a lot of glass. And this use of brick and glass, I was essentially in charge of detailing it. I didn't necessarily design it because the entire project was designed in USA by an architect. But then that was just a raw design. We have to bring it here and take that design, and then we have to detail it out, which is a process where you start detailing where will be the brick come, where will be the glass come, what will be the air barrier in between to reduce the heat gain. Same goes for the facade. Like we have to define
What exactly a facade is?
Facade is derived from the term fascia, like face, right? So that's the what people would call elevation of the building. The elevation, like how it looks when you see a building, front elevation, back elevation. So together everything is called facade. So there will be a facade and then there will be a roof, which is essentially a composition of a building as it stands. So that
जो हम लोग फॉल सीलिंग की बात करते हैं,
Yeah.
that is a part of facade.
Not really.
Okay.
Facade is strictly your windows, the wall which is uh, standing and the window in it, or anything that is, let's say, vertical, the vertical member of a building. Yeah. So your roof, your slab will not count in facade per se.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so yeah, I was in charge of the facade on Bangalore Terminal 2 project. And then once that was detailed by my team, we moved on to the roof of the building. So I was then in charge of the entire roof of the airport. And then there were a lot of skylights in it where the light comes in. So that was my second scope of work. And the last scope of work before leaving L&T was looking at all the fixed link bridges. Now, these fixed link bridges are an extremely lesser used part of an airport, but everybody uses it. It's a bridge which takes you from your gate. The moment boarding starts, you go into this tunnel like the area, which is very beautiful and carpeted. And then suddenly you go into second tunnel like area, which is called PBB, which is called public boarding bridge. That is like movable, removable and movable. And then finally you enter your aircraft. So if you remember your journey of boarding, you'll remember first you show your boarding pass, then you go to the fixed link bridge, and you walk through this carpeted area, beautiful. You
Right.
don't stop at all. And then you enter this bridge, Jape, you stop. You're like, where am I?
Okay, fine. So you told that in departure and arrivals there were different materials used. One
Yeah.
was bricks and in departure it was
Yeah.
glasses. Is there any specific reason to it?
Okay, so there are two types of airport typically. If you look at Bangalore Terminal 1, you will your departure will be on the left side and your arrival will be on the right side. The same level, everything happens on the same level,
Right.
right? Your drop off and your pickup.
Right.
But in bigger airports, like let's say Mumbai Airport, Chennai Airport, or Bangalore Terminal 2 Airport, the area required is much, much higher. So what they do is lower level will be arrival and upper level will be always departure. So if you remember your journey, you're reaching an airport, you always take this bridge, we take you to directly to the third floor of the
Right.
building, and then you go. It's strictly because you need a larger area. And now that you've segregated your arrival and departure into two different layers, you have opportunity to create a separate different experience, right? So arrival mein you you never look back at the building. You're constantly in this journey of exiting the building, and as soon as you leave the building, you're heading towards your taxi and you're gone.
Right.
Right? You never look back. But then when you're departing, you arrive at the building, you're looking at the building, and that experience is much more grand if you think about it.
So at times what happens when a thing what originates, it gets originated for some reason. But over the period of time, with the change in environment and circumstances, we ideally should modify that original concept.
True.
But we tend to follow the previous one, and maybe we are lazy or just don't bother about changing
Yeah.
the other thing, changing the original crux or maintaining the original crux. Even in buildings that happen.
Yeah.
I recently came across a scenario where it's a building in a small town, or you can say it a village as well. The building itself is some 40 years old building. But now that person who is residing in that building, he's trying to construct one more structure over the top of that same building, without even understanding that what will happen to the building.
Sure. Yeah.
What will happen to the core of the building.
Yeah.
Do you also find such kind of situations or such kind of infrastructure, architecture around you?
You know what? This is a very huge conversation. In a bigger picture of things, what we are talking about is following something, and then you're saying that at some point we need to maybe tweak our ways, and those are called
based on the situation, based
Yeah.
on the current circumstances and like
Yeah, right. Like let's say vegan meat. Now, where do you put vegan meat per se, lab grown meat? Like, is it vegetarian? Technically, it is, but does my belief system allow me to eat lab grown piece of beef? Maybe not, right? And this is where we need to sit and figure out, like, where does it align with our belief system? Yeah. Yeah, that it didn't exist when gods existed or their messengers existed, but now they do, right? So we need to sit down and think. So all I'm saying is there is a course and there is always a need for a discourse where something is moving and you shift and then you assimilate something in between and then you are a new thing, new or pro max version, right? You need to keep evolving, but there are certain things which never evolve. Now, speaking strictly about architecture, is that architecture I feel is the only field which we had since years in India. We were really good at it. We have proof of it. Like we have really good architecture in southern India, really great architecture in Rajasthan, great architecture in Delhi. Uh, they were brought by Mughals. Discourses happened, but we had our architecture prowess. We used to build our houses in a certain way. We used to have angan courtyards. We used to have balconies. We used to have, there were reasons to it. We used to have jalis. We used to have our vastu shastra. We used to have all this, and we had solid this thing until Mughal influences came in. We did Taj Mahal in 15th century, which is still one of the most beautiful building. And then British brought their own influence. They brought their Gothic architecture, and we took that Gothic architecture, mixed it with our Indian architecture. We called it Indo-Saracenic architecture. And then you go to Mumbai, where you see, Victoria Terminal Station, or you go to Victoria Memorial in Kolkata. Beautiful architecture. And then somewhere post independence, we just stopped giving attention to architecture, because architecture became like a vanity. And what happened was survivalism took uh, more preference over design and aesthetics. And what happened is people just started making building with no uh, uh, what do you say, identity. It lost his identity, because when I talk about building, I talk about building as a person. you know it functions like a person. A building will have services which are like spinal cord, where your air conditioning system will come, your electricity, your power backup. So building is like a human being. When you're designing a building, you're designing a skin, you're designing the spine, you're designing the services, you're designing the spaces. And people are coming in and they're experiencing it, and the whole experience of being in a space defines how you feel, right? Right now you're sitting in this room, this wooden flooring is doing giving you a different level of experience, right? It's not as cold as marble. It's not as cold as it's is it's matching your body temperature. you know and this experience is much better than sitting in a next room with no air condition and a cold marble tile and drab wall. So everything is adding up, right? So I'm just saying, somewhere we forgot about this. There is a revival. I'm not saying revival is not happening, but there are very few buildings when you walk in a nice gated community, where there will be few buildings which will really catch your eye. So that is something I feel a discourse needs to happen. We have the money, we have that perception. It's just we are slightly short sighted when it comes to designing our building. And talking about designing a building, our perception, our idea of aesthetics is very derived, and we need to perhaps sit down and figure out, like, do we need to have a building that is fully made up of glass as your idea of a modern design, or do we need to sit down and maybe make that building look like a beautiful palace or a beautiful temple? you know so
But so far, what I feel is that bigger architectures or bigger buildings, a lot of thought process goes into that. It's not that like just that we want to put a glass building or sand building. So I've seen in Dubai there are structures which are whose exterior looks like a sand, looks like sand. In fact, they in exteriors they put sand tiles.
Okay.
So that they can combat the heat and the dust which gets stuck in the exteriors. So even that looks cool.
Yeah.
So how do you define like the modern architecture or uh, non-modern architecture? Is it like in India we have started feeling that we are old school? No.
No, so this topic of short-sightedness is actually a much bigger conversation. I was not actually talking about your individual bungalow or a row house or whatever. I was talking about big buildings, right? Now, what has happened is around 90s and 2000, when this IT boom and industrial boom happened, and IT companies started coming to India and opening their headquarters, they brought their own style of architecture with them, which was suitable to where they came from.
Okay.
It sounds slightly controversial, but see, let's say I'm Google and I decide to open an office in India. I would like that office to be an extension of my American office. Fair enough. And that's fine. And Google opens their office, which looks like an American design. But then what happens? Let's say Infosys is opening their office in India, and Infosys is not a foreign company, right? It's an Indian company. But when they think about like what kind of my building needs to be, they don't think about the building as having an Indian identity. which should have been the case. Now, see, I'll give you a perspective. Let's say Google Office is in somewhere in the northern hemisphere, much closer to poles, and it's pretty cold there. So it makes sense that you have a glass as a main building material, because what happens, glass allows a lot of heat to come in. So if it's really cold day and at 12 in the noon sun is up, you want that sun to really come in as deep as deep inside as possible, because you want to feel that warmth, you want to enjoy that golden light, that you get during the afternoon period. But in India, it's not the case. From the time, from the time sun rises, it's just beautiful, right? And by 11 a.m. in the morning, it becomes intolerable. You don't want the sun. You want to cut out the sun, right? Because you want to. Otherwise, you feel really hot. But you, but see, that gets lost somewhere, right? That idea gets lost because now you're sitting in Bangalore and your building is completely made up of glass because you wanted maximum amount of sun inside, but you cannot tolerate that sun. So now you have huge air conditioning systems installed, and they're running at their full capacity because uh, you're feeling really hot inside, right? Other But now let's think about it. Let's say this hypothetical example of Infosys, where they say, "Oh, we are an Indian company. Let's design for India. Let's oh, this side we are getting a lot of sun. Let's put a wall and with a tiny window, so we restrict the amount of sunlight that comes in. And by having more wall and less window, your heating load also reduces, right? Because you're not receiving so much heat inside, so you can run your air conditioners on a lesser power, on a more optimum, or what you say, economical uh, state, and save some power as well, right? But in fact, save some carbon footprints as well. Same, right? It's very hypocritical when I go to big tech parks with lot of glasses and lot of concrete, and it's absorbing lot of heat, and air conditioning system is running on full power, and then they say, "Oh, you know what, we are going to go carbon neutral in 5 years." How are you going to block your glasses and make sure you reduce the thermal heat gain inside? Or what's the idea? Or you're keep going to run your ECs, but then you're going to buy some carbon credits from offshore. You know, it doesn't work that way. Why don't you cut back on your energy consumption? Why don't you grow more trees? Why don't you reduce by growing a tree? Tree needs that sunlight. We don't need that sunlight in the noon. Let the tree have it. Let your building, let us enjoy the shade of a tree and the cool breeze that comes under the tree, right? Because see, the way climate works on a micro level is wherever there is a shade, negative pressure generates. So wind has a tendency of flowing towards the shade in a hope that it will replace the the hot air tries to replace the cold air on a continuous basis. Yeah, hot air will rise up, and it will rise up because hot air always rises, and it's replaced by uh, other air from the surrounding, and this keeps happening. What's fascinating? This is the concept of a courtyard. In olden times, when building, there will be building with a courtyard. What used to happen? Courtyard uh, will not receive. Chabutra, we used to say in Hindi. Angan. Angan. Not Chabutra. I don't know what's Chabutra. Okay, like the a typical Rajasthani word. Yeah, maybe that's courtyard, but Angan. So system is that courtyard mein you never get direct sunlight, because when the sun is rising, your building itself is blocking the sun. So it's always colder in the courtyard, and because it's colder in the courtyard, wind has a tendency of entering the courtyard and rising up. Right. Okay. And by just having that, your entire building stays cold because wind is constantly trying to enter your courtyard and then rise up. And that's why courtyard will be the best place to sit, because it's always windy in the courtyard. It's because you're creating a micro level where you're creating negative pressure, and wind is trying to enter there, but it's not staying hot there, so it ends up rising up. You get a constant circulation of air. So, and that is how we stayed cool before air conditioning in India, right? This entire thing which we talked about air conditioners and why do buildings need air conditioners, what if we want to apply it to offices? And
does it really save some bucks of yours? Like what structure you like? What is the structure of your office? Does it help saving bucks?
Oh, yeah. So you're talking about how architecture of a building, like a design of a building, can contribute to the
Cost
thermal
efficiency.
comfort.
One thing is thermal comfort. The other thing is economic comfort.
Absolutely. So we'll talk about it. So first thing, so you have to be very scientific in this process. First, you need to identify all your culprits. So like I said, for any space to feel hot, there are three culprits: humidity, carbon dioxide built up, and the material itself. Like I said, if this wall is exposed to the sun at night time, it's going to absorb a lot of heat during the day, and night time it's going to radiate a lot of heat. So I know my three culprits. Now we'll solve each problem one by one. Okay. First problem is reduce the heat gain. So I will identify where all the sun is coming from. Like you actually do a site analysis. You go to the site and you find out, okay, there is a tree here, so sun is not coming from here. There is this is open, so sun will come from here. So let's figure out a strategy to block out the sun. Okay. So that's one strategy. Second strategy is how do you increase the wind flow into your building. So your the way to increase the wind flow in a building is having a courtyard or any way you can make negative pressure. So your next problem will be how do I create negative pressure in my building, right? So take all these strategies and start applying them. So first step would be if sun is coming too much from here, earth is a great insulation. Soil or a thick brick, mud brick, terracotta, all these materials which we have in India, all of them are excellent uh, at insulating a building. So let's do this. South side, this side sun is coming. Let's put really thick block wall over there, and it should be made up of mud or terracotta. Or I'll do a green wall. I'll have a regular wall and I'll grow plant on it. Okay, or I will grow a tree, right? You can grow a banyan tree, and over the years it will grow and it will completely block out the sun.
But it will also enter the building.
Grow a tree on your side for a change, right? Have a lot of trees growing in. There is a way of having accelerated growth in tree. There's a Japanese way, it's called Mirawaki, where you plant a lot of trees in a small patch, and because of how do you say,
in a combination of how much their height and oxygen.
there will be a competition between the plants to survive, and that survival instinct of a plant will make it shoot. Like in 2 years you can have really high trees. So you can plant a Mirawaki forest, you can have thicker building, you can do a lot of strategies, but you can insulate your building to cut down the sun. And second will be you get a courtyard or you get jali. In Rajasthan, Hawa Mahal is there, right? It has got a lot of jali in it. So what happens, wind has a tendency, when wind passes through a smaller aperture or some kind of opening, it compresses itself and it goes in. Then when it comes out now, during the process of expansion, it cools down. So, that is called funnel effect. But essentially, if you pass wind through a jali, like an intricate jali with lot of holes or anything in it, it cools down, which is amazing. And it's been used in Rajasthan. You'll see all this jali, and wo jo hawa banta hai, it's very cold. So you can use jalis on one side.
In fact, you'll find such kind of things in all the forts.
Yeah.
In the entire fort wall.
Yeah.
You will find on the top there will be
Jarokha bolte hai, jali bolte hai. Those are all very Indian architecture elements that we've completely forgotten about. If we somehow revive it and we bring it to our apartment building or our IT parks, we can really make it cool, right? I,
I guess the problem over there is that the IT parks generally are made up of glass buildings, and if you leave out spaces like that, there's a chance of breaking it down.
No, but question is why are they glass buildings? It's only because we're blindly copying architecture of Europe, right?
Correct.
Where it's cold.
Correct.
Like what you see in Germany or USA. All this glass facade building, they kind of originated from Chicago. Chicago is where, it was architecture hopscotch, where first air conditioned building, first elevator building, everything was first in Chicago at some point. And Chicago is one of the coldest cities during winter. It's really cold. River freezes up, temperature goes in minus. So it makes sense there. But यहाँ पे we cannot blindly copy those that architecture, bring it to India, in Rajasthan, in hot cities, and cities are only getting hotter. We're cutting down trees in the name of landscaping, and you go to any tech park, all these tiny tiny trees will be there. But why?
Does it make sense?
They don't, because India is an it's in an equatorial belt, right? We have more evergreen forest. We have more trees which are tall and wide, like our banyan tree or our peepal tree, which are our indigenous trees, right? Are they like Christmas tree, like consolidated and so on? No, right? They're wide because sun. We get lot of sun, so trees are only reacting to the amount of light, and they're growing much wider. And we need to have those kind of trees, rather than having like tiny tiny topiaries and British style, topiaries like nicely cut uh, shrubs and bushes. We don't want that. So somewhere, what I'm saying is, in architecture, we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to our architectural elements which have kept us cool for so long. We need to go back to indigenous trees. We don't want foreign trees which come in, and sometimes non-indigenous species of trees also overpower local trees, and they bring their set of diseases and whatnot. So we don't need them. Grow indigenous trees, grow indigenous flowers, have jalis in your IT parks, have internal courtyards if you can. Let the wind come in. Uh, there's a really good example of Titan office in Electronic City in South Bangalore, where it seems like they've adopted all these strategies. They have made the building underground. They've covered it with soil, and they're growing grass on it, which is a really good insulation. And I think they are doing away from air conditioning. They have a water body and internal courtyard and all that. So I saw this video just yesterday, and I was like, this is what all the buildings in India are supposed to be. If we had been more conscious of our choices, of our design strategies, if the architects were not so blindly following Western architecture style, things would have been much more different. So
I guess this also comes up from a mindset that when I am seeing a very different kind of building and I get amazed
Yeah.
that, oh wow, this is nice, this looks good, I need to have this.
Yeah.
Without even thinking that what will it cost me.
Yeah. You know what's the weirdest part? Cost of construction in local material is cheaper as well. And you can achieve a very beautiful looking design for much lesser than the price you pay for double insulated glass or whatnot.
Are we having an inferiority complex?
Sometimes I see this, for me as an architect, knowing all this and studying all this is my thesis topic and whatnot. I do feel sometimes very hopeless that there are very few architects in India who are actually true to the roots and delivering buildings which are extremely gorgeous and still, cost effective.
And environment friendly.
Everything, A to Z. And when you go in those spaces, you feel surreal. A really good example would be there's this building called Krushi Bhavan. You can look it up at some point. It's completely made up of brick, terracotta, and all the metal jalis, and they've used so many Indian elements. There is a small lotus pond, and it's one of the most beautiful building I have seen. And in my opinion, that defines what modern architecture for India should be in its own identity. Because right now, it's in Bhubaneswar, I think so. Yeah. Uh, so the architect who is designing it has done many good designs, but that's my favorite. But point is that currently India doesn't have its own architectural identity, which is mass adopted. Like, it's one thing that you have your own identity, but then it should also be mass adopted, right? Like your house should be in that style, your IT park should be in that style, and everything should look coherent. Like when you go to Venice, Venice, every building will be different but thematically coherent, right? Or you go to Paris, or you go to, right? This is Paris because of the architecture style. Or you
The
go to
same thing you
Tokyo.
can find in Pondicherry as well when we talk about French colonies.
Mhm.
So they are like each house is different.
Hmm.
Still, they are having more or less a similar theme.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that thematic coherence should be there now. Like when somebody comes to India, they should take a picture and be like, oh, I'm in India right now, because the architecture is completely different. Our food is the only thing that defines us, or our appearance or our clothing. Why not our architecture have that clothing as well, where it proudly says, hey, I'm also Indian, just like you. And people from outside maybe try to copy it someday. Okay, I really like this Indian architecture, so I'm gonna copy it in my. That doesn't happen because we just don't have it yet, and we need to work towards this. So
Great.
I'm very optimistic about it, but
I guess
the state of being at this point is slightly grim. Not to say that people are not tasteful. I've seen some beautiful bungalows in laterite stone, which is used in Kerala. It's volcanic stone. Yeah, it's slightly porous, beautiful looking, like orangish color, and it's extremely well insulating material. Like if you're in a room made up of laterite stone, I would doubt you will feel hot, even in this temperature.
But then, how will you apply that same concept in light of lesser availability of space? Earlier, we used to have huge spaces, huge grounds for one single person or one single family, and structuring this courtyard becomes a really good option.
Courtyard is just one strategy for staying cool. Another strategy is what
Because
people.
now, in general, the construction is like at most of the places you'll find wall to wall constructions.
Yeah.
Even if it's illegal, then also a lot of places you'll find wall to wall construction.
See, that is where local bylaws fail us. Okay. In Mumbai, there is an offset rule. You cannot have wall to wall construction. You need to leave certain offset, which is proportional to your height. And in that front, Mumbai is pretty nice. You always make sure that there is some gap between the two buildings. But I've seen this in Bangalore and Chennai, that wall to wall construction happen. Now, that's a great thing. I'll tell you why wall to wall construction is good, because it reduces the surface area of your building exposed to the sun outside. So that way your building actually stays cool. So you plant a tree in front of your house, so no surface area exposed to sun in the front, no surface area exposed to the sun on the sides, because next building. So that's another strategy. You keep everything so packed
These
together.
buildings are not airy, like they don't feel airy and light. No, a lot of darkness is there. Or constant.
It comes at a cost, right? Yeah, reducing your surface area comes at a cost. Ki there won't be any windows on the left hand side of the right of the building, because there is a wall. So it comes at a cost. Can't have it all. So
The thermal heat which you're talking about,
heat gain, yeah.
that keeps revolving inside the house.
No, actually, uh, minimal heat gain happens because your house is not that much exposed. Uh, so there are many strategies. The strategy of having everything clustered together comes from Ahmedabad. Like if you go to old Ahmedabad, there is something called pole system, where there were all these clusters of houses, tiny, tiny clusters of houses, one next to other, based on your craft. Like let's say you're potter, there will be poured for potters, there will be poured for weavers and all. Yeah, and you enter those; they're tightly packed, where seldom any light would enter that. But because it's tightly packed and sunlight doesn't enter much, it used to be very cool.
So it becomes like a community.
Yeah, like
So, courtyard. It becomes a community courtyard.
in a way, yeah, in a way, where your streets become like this negative pressure built up, and then wind has again tendency to come in, and that's why your it will be much cooler. And then if you have a bazaar, they will also put fabric on top to reduce the
I've seen that in Bikaner as well.
Yeah, and that is the Indian architecture style where we instinctively knew that the more closer, clumped up, packed housing we will have, we will be there will be less thermal heat gain, and we will stay cool and we'll survive. And at the night time, you go to your terrace and go to sleep. That will be because the climate is dry.
Architecture, there is one more thing that it is like it will be like a train.
Yeah.
So the air continuously gets circulated throughout the entire house.
Yes.
And it's not like today's architecture is there is the back wall is also packed. You are closed from left, right,
and
back as well.
Yeah.
Only front is open.
Yeah.
So the cross rotation of the air does not happen.
It does not happen, but it also keeps you very well insulated from outside. Let's say if you're running an air conditioner in those rooms, it will be so much more energy efficient because all your walls are cool. They have no thermal heat gain except just the one side. But if the same bungalow is freestanding in an open area, it's gaining heat from all sides, and now you're running an air conditioner. It won't be as efficient as running it in a closely packed space.
But will it need that much of air conditioner?
It will need, because fresh air is required. See, I'll tell you on a micro level now. Two culprits are carbon dioxide and humidity. These two guys, entire day they capture the heat, and then at night time they radiate the heat. Okay, so if you are in, let's say, Bangalore or Jaipur or so anywhere in Rajasthan where climate is dry, then humidity is gone. Daytime there is no humidity, so all you need to worry is about carbon dioxide. So if you plant a lot of trees and concentration of carbon dioxide is less and oxygen is high, I would like, there is no way that place will be hot at night. It will be extremely cold because you have the right composition of things. There is no humidity, there is no carbon dioxide, and there is no sun right now. So heat is not coming from anywhere except the earth, the ground. So you put a nice charpai and sleep on that charpai in the open. It will be one of the best experience. You don't need an air conditioner. But humidity is there in Chennai and in Mumbai, then it's not the same. Even if it's hot outside, humidity will enter your house and it will make your room also hot. So that's why you will be sitting in a room and you will be dripping.
Right.
and that,
in fact, if you're outside your house, you'll be comfortable.
Still, because fresh air is there,
Right.
but in a closed room, there is humidity, which is constantly making you feel hot. It's interacting with the water that you are releasing from your skin in form of sweat. It's not allowing it to evaporate. It only makes things more, uh, what do you say, moist.
Yeah.
It only makes you more uncomfortable because you're sweating, and then your sweat is not evaporating despite your fan being on. And this is where your air conditioner, you need an air conditioner, because when you turn on an air conditioner, you know what it does. First thing it does is dehumidifies the space. You know, all the water that falls out from the air conditioner, that is essentially the humidity in the room, which it is kicking out, because cooling cannot happen while humidity is in the space. Okay, so that's why if you stay in an air conditioned space for too long, your skin gets dry because the space is dry, right? Air conditioner is doing its job. So yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
So you mean to say that in humid places like Chennai, AC would be more efficient than a fan or a cooler?
Yes, cooler will not work in Chennai because you're already humid. Then you're bombarding that space with water droplets, and then you're also sweating constantly. You're breathing out water in form of, you know, what that water comes out, vapors, in form of vapor, and then you bombard with cooler. It just would not work unless you have a very powerful fan, because fan uh, accelerates the evaporation process, right? Yeah, but it can only do so much. On an 100% humid day, coolers will not work. Air conditioners are perfect. You run it at 26, so you're making it run on an economical, uh, energy efficient mode, and you're also getting proper cooling. So
what do you think? should be, or businesses or budding entrepreneurs, budding architects
Oh yeah.
should be doing to get the real identity of India back in a way, or make India more ecologically efficient?
Yeah. All we have to do is go back to our roots. Uh, uh, See, we need to be critical of what ideas we adopt. I'm not saying Western ideas are bad, but when you say when you are in Ahmedabad or in Jaipur, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to have a freestanding multi-story bungalow. Go back to the roots and have row houses, cluster, and don't have wide roads and all that. See how you can cut back. See how you can reduce your heat gain, your thermal heat gain. See how you can live without air conditioning. Find ways and commit to it, rather than just putting air conditioning in every room and saying that, oh, I can afford air conditioning, so it's cool. You know, why can't you commit to a alternate lifestyle where, despite you being so rich, you figure out ways to make your house cooler architecturally, and then yeah, and should take pride in that. you know मैंने घर ऐसा बनाया कि मेरे घर में एसी का जरूरत भी नहीं है. दोपहर के 12 बजे मेरा रूम 26 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे.
My house is carbon zero.
Yeah, take pride in that, right?
Yeah.
Take pride in generating minimum waste, take pride in sustainable practices, take pride in probably growing your own food. That would be the next step towards self sustainability. Take pride in having surplus produce and giving it to your neighbor, perhaps starting a barter system.
Right.
Why can't we? Why can't the definition of affluence be that? Would be a bigger question, right? Where you have self-sustaining and self-reliant housing, and then you are giving it back to generate enough power in your solar on your roofs that you give back to the grid, rather than taking from the grid and running your air conditioner.
Right.
We can afford it, everybody can afford it, but overconsumption is not going to lead to a greener or sustainable future. Our kids are in jeopardy because of the lifestyle we are living right now. So
Okay. Nice.
I mean, it's the right time to having this conversation, because right now we are in a phase where we have got our self identity as an Indian back, right? We're in the developmental phase where we are taking decisions which are intrinsic and not more global, and this is the right time to have those conversations and uh, get more aware that this is another realm where we need to, adopt changes. So, but yeah, I'm very optimistic. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Let's hope for the best and a brighter future.
Yeah.
I guess a cooler future.
Cooler future for sure. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for watching this podcast till here. And I really hope you would have got something out of it for sure. If you really feel that one person, if you can really make at least 1% of contribution to a better architecture, I guess that would save you from the day by day increasing heat, climate. You can contribute your bit of climate change. You can, like, if you are cooler, your decision making will be cooler, and it will be having a lot of multiplying effects. So, do let us know if you are having any other issues in your business which are not exactly uh, business oriented. Apart from business, also, there are a lot of qualitative aspects which a business deals with. So, do let us know if you are struggling with any of these topics. We will try, and we are sure that we will get some experts who can help you out in that. Till then, give your comments. How do you like the video? Like it, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.